Hey, good
Good
morning. Good
morning.
morning.
Hey, good
How are ya?
evening, Anne.
Yeah, not quite, but we're getting there, and I'm ready to go out to the party right after this. So
I
sorry for
see.
being a
You
little
look
bit more
stunning.
dressy than normal. Yeah,
Yeah, you're so fancy. I'm
yeah, a
literally,
little too fancy, a little
Mm.
too fancy, but I figured
No,
I'd
you look
save time.
beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's funny. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I am fully caffeinated, so look out. I've had a lot of
Perfect.
caffeine already. I like woke up, walked my dogs, I did my chores, right? The dishes that didn't get done, or you had to run the dishwasher, the mom life, right? And then
Right.
came home. It's Saturday morning. I had to get breakfast for the one kid that's up because I've got two other teenagers sleeping in because I have three boys. This is all relatable, so I'll get there. But it's like I'm thinking to myself, it's like, okay, I got my stuff done, and now I can do what I need to do for me, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I thought about perspective because the last 3 years, I sort of shifted a little bit, I shifted in not putting my family and my boys and my husband first, and then kind of matching me to them and focusing on getting my career going. I've always been
Yeah.
part-time in radio, but radio left me, and then I really wanted to get into voiceover and acting or fell into acting. And then now here I am having another little shift, like a micro shift where my husband finally he's been up and down with like work, since COVID and stuff. So he finally got the
Yeah.
job he's been waiting for. And so now I've had
Oh,
this little micro shift where I kind of have to still keep going my voice acting and on camera stuff that I started and fell into. But now I'm solo parenting again. So I have to sort of refocus a little bit more on my husband and the kids, So it's always a balancing act you
for
know?
sure.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, so yeah, so
No,
leads us
absolutely.
right into your journey because
Well,
you
I
got
think first, I'd love to meet Gabriela. We haven't actually
oh,
formally
yeah.
met.
I know.
Gabriela.
Hi. Hi. I'm sorry. I'm usually in my booth, but same thing with the parenting and everything. My husband had to go out of town for work and I couldn't change my son's tennis class, so I'm now recording
Outside,
from yeah,
Yeah,
outside.
no problem. You've got the prettiest background of all of
right?
us.
Oh,
Right?
thank you.
She's on
For sure.
location, she's
For
I'm
on
on
sure.
location.
location.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Anne, like, share a little bit about because what really piqued my interest about your story is that my acting coach brought you into my vortex and said, "Hey, you really need to touch base with Anne because she's kind of like in where you're kind of like at, you know?"
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
yeah, but, like, but this is your second act in acting.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit older than the two of you. So my
Not
son is now
much.
20. My son is 27. So there you
Yeah.
go. So, but I definitely like I was in that. Well, there were a couple of things. One was, I'd been SAG-AFTRA when I was in America and I was working on my equity card. And then when I was 28, I met this hot German guy and
We have
somebody's
another one
coming.
trying. Just keep going. It's chaos.
Okay. I met this hot German guy, got knocked up and, ended up moving to Germany. Hey, Angela.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for jumping on so early. I know
Yeah,
it's early for
sorry.
you guys. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's chaos. It's
it
life.
is chaos. That's what happens. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Continue. Don't worry
Yeah.
about me.
And ended up I want to turn that off, but I guess I can't. Anyway, I ended up in Germany, right? And at first, yeah, obviously I was very focused on my family and beginning my new life here and all of that. But I mean, very quickly I started thinking, God, all I ever learned and all I ever did from the time I was 17 was be an actor. So now what? And it's all I want to do, frankly. It's all I ever wanted to do. So the question was like, how am I supposed to make that work here? Because acting is communicating, and I don't speak German. I do
Yes.
now, but I didn't back then. I've lived here now 28 years, but so that for me was like a real, trying to find my path initially in acting and all of that. And it started a lot like I think what you do, Jozlyn, with, in the beginning, I was just doing a ton of voice work, which led then to presenting work, which led to commercial work, which then I started getting auditions for television. And by then I could speak German, still, not without an accent. I'll always have that because I learned it
Yeah.
when I was almost 30.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so it was, but then that began to interfere with, like, I had gotten cast in a German soap opera, and it was a 2-year contract, but they were filming in Cologne. I live in Munich. And
Okay.
I'm like, yes, they had childcare in the studios in Cologne. I was like, absolutely. My son was maybe 3 at the time, something like that. So I'm like, well, I'll just take Mark and go, Monday through Friday to Cologne. And my husband was like, absolutely not. I
Oh,
mean, if
wow.
you need to do that, you go do it, but I don't want to be separated from him either all week
Yeah.
long.
Makes sense.
And then,
Yeah.
and I got that, right? Because I didn't either. And so I ended up backing out of the contract,
Oh,
which
yeah.
led like to a whole bunch of ramifications. So my agent dumped me, of course, which rightly so, right?
Right.
And then I just for a long time was just trying to like just be happy with what you have. You have a beautiful family, you're making your living acting adjacent with the voice work, with the presenting, doing
Right.
commercials, but not acting, right? It wasn't what I wanted for myself.
Right.
And for a long time, I think I was happy with that. I was content, right? Because I always wanted to be a mom. That's a huge part of my identity, who I am. And being present for my son and available and there for him was hugely important to me.
Yeah.
So I get that from all of you, I
Mhm.
really do. But then, I don't know how old all of your kids are. You said teenagers, Jozlyn. So
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
around that time that my son was like, he came to me one day. He was around 16. My husband, I think, was out of town that weekend, but we had made plans to go to a movie the following night.
Yeah.
And my son came to me the day before and he's like, Mom, I don't know,
Yep.
I'd rather just hang out with my friends.
Yep. Totally.
Feel me now,
I
right?
know. It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard when they
Yeah.
want nothing to do with you.
To do with you.
I
Yeah.
want nothing to do with you. Yeah.
But so on a whim, I sat down and I just Googled, acting workshop, Munich, English. And one popped up for the very next day, and there was one spot left.
Oh,
Wow.
And it was not a normal thing. I mean, I'm not in LA, I'm not in New York, I'm not in America, right? I'm in Germany. So it was not a normal thing. So it was like the universe kind of like, here you go, honey,
yeah. Yeah. Here's your answer.
And that, yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I took it. I
Yeah.
definitely took it. And I came out of that workshop 3 days later. It was an amazing workshop with a coach named Kirk Baltz. He was the guy who got his ear cut off in Reservoir Dogs, actually.
Oh my gosh.
But he's an amazing coach. And I left that workshop 3 days later, just feeling honestly like I had been trying to breathe underwater for
Mhm.
Yeah.
16 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally was like, oh my God, right? This is my element. This is what I've been missing. This is what I need in my life. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
even makes me emotional now when I think about it.
Yeah.
And then
That's
it
beautiful.
was like a no turning back moment for me.
That's awesome. That's
That is
beautiful.
amazing. Yeah. When you took that decision, sorry, Joss,
No, go.
at the very beginning to not take that job, was there ever a sense of guilt? Like this, I know that your son is very important. Like we can all relate to that, but that
Mhm.
little sense of like guilt, like towards yourself, like I could have done something or I could have done more.
It's like a
Yeah.
death of like a piece of you died or something,
Yeah.
but like a piece of you was
Yeah.
still like present because it's your son. I don't know. It's so
Yeah.
dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of is, though. I mean, it's a great question because I feel bad saying it because I know a lot of men make sacrifices for their kids too, but I don't think it's in the same way that
No.
We do.
we are
Mhm.
hardwired to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We are
Mhm.
hardwired to do this.
Totally.
And men are not necessarily, doesn't mean they're not nurturing, doesn't mean they're not great dads, doesn't mean they don't make sacrifices too, because I know plenty who do. But I think many women, and not all, but many women are really, it is just like in our DNA. We want to make, do
Yeah.
what we need to do, put ourselves last when it comes to our kids.
Totally.
Right.
Not
Right.
to say that there
So-
hasn't been like a shift in the last couple decades where there are some men that,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
That
like,
steps
Yeah,
up and
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
generally,
don't,
yeah.
please don't
Mr.
write
Mom,
into
Mr.
Yeah,
Mom.
yeah,
Yes.
Mr.
yeah.
Mom.
yeah,
Yeah.
podcast
Right.
and bitch about this because
No,
I
no.
recognize that guys do this too, but
Generally speaking,
I
I think
think
we're
that
equipped for it
generally
more. Yeah.
speaking, it's more women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they call it
Totally.
Mr. Mom for a reason, right? They're
Yeah.
they're emulating
Yeah.
mom, right?
Yeah.
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 Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
And how many
Yeah.
women do you know? Like, I have tons of mom friends that are like, if I didn't work full time, I would be, I don't know, I would just be not in a good place. But you're still working full time and then you're still a full time mom.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that doesn't go away, whether you're full time home, and whatever, like whatever combination you've got going on that works for you and your family, it's like, it's still a lot falls on you. Just like I was saying,
Mhm.
I'm back to solo parenting. My husband, he's the breadwinner. He's the one who's making the majority of the money to pay for the majority of our finances. Not to say that I don't have my freelance and my voiceover, my on camera stuff going still, but that's the choice that we made personally for our family, and
Mhm.
it's always a balancing act. It's always a
Yeah,
balancing act.
Yeah.
There's
for
never like
sure.
one equation for everybody. It's like all different for everybody. So,
For
yeah.
sure.
So there's always
But
Mr.
Gabriela,
Moms
you had
involved.
asked me if I felt like I left like a piece of myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think at the time I did, but like in retrospect,
Yeah.
right? It was
Yeah.
like, damn, it's like 16 years I've been doing this. And 16 years, I know like when I came back, it was really difficult for my husband because he's traditional, was also the breadwinner, like the
Yeah.
majority of our finances came from him. I was like you, I was contributing. I even bought a house in Florida. So it wasn't like I wasn't, but he was still earning more than I was
Yeah.
and does, right? And steadily,
Yeah,
which,
that's the
right?
key.
Yeah. That's the key.
Yeah.
Consistently.
There's that
Yeah.
little aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. Net 30, net
So,
60, next.
Right.
right. So that was, but when I came back to acting, he had been used to having me like, well,
Yeah.
you know how it is when you do voice work. It's really lucrative and it's really flexible and it's not very time consuming.
Mhm.
Or at least that's how my experience of it was. I would
Yeah.
do commercials and industrial, but like if I had 4 hours in a studio, that was a friggin' ass long day.
Yeah.
Right. That was really long.
Yeah.
So I was always home to make dinner. I was always home to pick up my son from his daycare. I was always there. Right.
Yeah.
And then when I decided to go return to acting, oh man, my husband kicked and screamed on that one.
Yeah.
And
'Cause you're
we
gone.
honestly almost divorced. I mean, spoiler
man.
alert, we're still together. This was 11 years ago. But it was really hard for him.
Yeah.
He really did not want his life as he knew it to change.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That makes
And
sense.
yeah. And I think that's when that thing that you asked me about, Gabriella, that's when that kicked in for me. And I remember one night we were sitting at dinner and he threatened me with divorce.
Yeah.
And I was shocked, but I also said, I love you.
Yeah.
And it'll break my heart if you
Yeah.
divorce me, but you
Yeah.
have to do what you have to do. And I have to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
Mm.
That makes
Takes
sense.
a lot of strength
Yeah.
to say
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
Honestly, like even a couple years ago, like my husband and I just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary, right? So we've been together
Oh,
22 years. And we've gone through our hardships, just in life. And when the dust settles, usually we're always good. But a couple years ago, when I started putting me first, right, or at least matching where I had all the rest of my boys at, and started making some changes, and he's like, "You're different." I'm like, "I am different." And there was a little inconsistency, and he didn't really like it. He didn't like that I was different. He didn't, he's like, "You're an entirely different person." And he wasn't matching me where I was lifting up to, where I've always been putting them ahead. And then I was matching myself with them. And now, so it was just this whole thing. And I was like, are we gonna make it through? Like I literally
mhm.
had this like thought, like, are we gonna make it? Like, I don't know. And there was a little bit of a hiccup and a rough spot there, and
Yeah.
ultimately, spoiler too, we're still here. We're still together.
Right, right.
He's
I
still my
don't
man
know
babe.
how, yeah. For me, I kind of see it like our old relationship died, but a new
Yeah.
one was
Yeah.
created,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's heavy, but that's also like very true.
Like
Yeah.
a stronger one because you both were faced with um uncomfortableness. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like you question his values and he questioned yours. And so ultimately that made you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And not to
Yeah.
mention the uncertainty of the particular career that you were choosing, like you said earlier, it's
Yes.
inconsistent sometimes. And,
Totally.
especially if you
Right.
are in a situation, thankfully your husband was, financially stable. But, if you're in a situation where, you're both paying bills and things like that, it can be stressful on the other person to, handle all that. So the
Yeah.
Yeah.
uncertainty can definitely put a little bit of a strain on the relationship. But in the same sense, like you guys are partners, that means that you got to give that
Yeah.
other person a chance, to show up.
Totally.
To show up for themselves. And this
Yeah.
is kind of also a conclusion I came to for myself. Like I knew it was really important for me not to,
Mm-hmm.
like, I matter too. It's not just I became a
Yeah,
mom and now I don't matter anymore.
absolutely.
Right.
Mhm.
And so it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just important for me to show up for myself and like
Mm-hmm.
not to let myself down, but that
Yeah.
was a big part of it. It's
Yeah.
also really important to me to show my son
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
that, that your dream, you don't become less important when you have children. You
Mhm.
can show them and you can nurture them, and not, you can, your dreams are worth pursuing no matter how old you are or were,
Yes.
right? I was 47 when I returned to acting. I'm 57 now, right? At the time, 47 was like an age when people are like, geez, getting old. I think I should get out,
Yeah.
right?
Not
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. Thank
Not
God.
anymore.
And
Yeah.
and
Thank God. Right.
right. Yeah. And I think also that whole thing is being redefined of like what is like 57 or 47, whatever, over 40, over 50, over 60 even is not what it was when I
Mhm.
was young.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like with the old ladies and the tight curls, the
Yeah.
blonde hair and the
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
slightly lavender, whatever it is.
That's funny.
Right.
Oh,
Just a
Yeah.
couple just a couple years away from that. It's
well,
okay.
it's interesting because when I started voiceover, you're right. Like, you can walk, and we don't even have to go in person, ever. We're like,
Mhm.
walk in my closet and I can walk out and change the laundry, walk back in my closet and then go pick up my high schooler who refuses to drive, right? And bring him home from school for his half day, his senior year. It's like you can do these things. I can go make dinner, come back, do a
Yeah.
training if I want to. So there's a lot more accessibility. But when I fell into acting in my 40s, and which I also dived into, in my 40s for voiceover as well. I thought, what is there even a place for me? My acting coach was like, yes, there's a place for you. There's always going to be a cool aunt. There's always going to be the mom. You might not be the main character, but you might be like this supporting, right?
Mhm.
And you really can act for till you're 80, till you die, like
Yeah.
if you
Exactly.
have that long of a life, or
Yeah.
however many years you have, like act. And so when I finally realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not afraid. I don't have to be 20 something. I can be 40 something and do this and do it well and have fun and not worry about it. Just
Right.
do it, and figure it out along the way. So
Mhm.
it was inspiring to like, have my coach connect me with you and and one of the other things I want to talk about is the business of acting. Like when you dive into acting, just like voiceover gals, there's like
Yeah.
this whole businessy side of things. And I'm like, wait,
Absolutely. I
help.
actually have quite a few voiceover artists in my coaching group, right? Because
Yeah.
okay, so I'm also a career coach for actors,
Yeah.
and who are trying to get more into acting, right? So
Yeah.
they've been doing the voiceover, that's been sustaining them. In fact, two of them are actually earning their living doing their voiceover, so they're doing
Wow.
really well with it.
That's
But they're
inspiring.
wanting
Yeah.
more. They want more, right? Which I get. And I think you have to think of your acting career, your voiceover career as like, I like to call it like a bird, right? So on the one side, you have your talent, your skills, your life experiences, all of these things, like these innate things that you bring
Mm-hmm.
to the business, right? But
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of that is your understanding and your implementation
Mm-hmm.
of the business side of being an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like when I first returned to acting at 47, I was just kind of doing all the things I had done before when I was young.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like I knew I'm supposed to get an agent. I knew I'm supposed to keep going to workshops. I knew I was supposed to submit my stuff to casting directors every quarter year, so I was
Yeah.
doing all that. And I was getting work, but it never felt like it was under my own control. It didn't feel like I was steering this boat.
Yeah.
And also I was still having a lot of limiting beliefs around my age. Like at this point, I was probably into my 50s, like right around 50, 51, something like that, thinking, God, I've only got a couple of years left. I got to get this show on the road.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
definitely hit
Right.
that point, like at that
Yeah.
stage in life. You're kind of like,
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pedal to the
Where?
metal.
Yeah. And that was when the first thing I did was like, I need to get that thought, that limiting belief out of my own head.
Yeah.
And so that's what initially made me get certified in being a life and career coach, was it wasn't necessarily altruistic. I was just thinking myself at first, like, let me just get let me reframe these beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so interesting because it really showed me, it was like a revelation, that if you can borrow someone else's framework and strategies and belief system, you save yourself a hell of a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that was like an epiphany for me. And then I started going, okay, what else do I need to, what else could I learn more about? Right.
Yeah.
And I knew it was the business side, right? Because when I was young, right, when you're young, the world is I don't think young people, I didn't realize it when I was young, but the world is just kind of open for you,
Yeah.
right? People like to help you. People want
Yeah.
to be that person in your life that's a pivotal person. There are just more people extending a hand when you're young. And that doesn't necessarily happen when you're a middle-aged woman. I hate that term, but it's true, right?
Right.
So I knew I needed something else, but I just didn't know what it was. And this is, my God, I mean, I've had probably 400 conversations with actors in the different coaching scenarios that I've done at this point. And this is, like, I would say 80% of actors don't even know that they are not, that they're missing a crucial element to get their career under their own control, to take back their power. So they feel like they're doing everything right. They're doing all, they may have an agent, they're going to the workshop, they're submitting to the casting directors, and yet they just don't have any control over their own careers.
Yeah.
And that's so disempowering, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much about this industry that is sort of disempowering by design.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
I think when we can find ways to take back our power, first of all, that makes you feel better, right? I mean, you're feeling more in control, more confident, more
Knowledgeable.
motivated,
Yeah.
happier, fulfilled, all of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's so important, because we all know those bitter actors, right?
It's easy to fall down that rabbit hole. I
It
mean,
is easy
it's
to
like
fall
a
down
slight
that
step.
rabbit hole.
It's like a slight step. It's like just it's easy.
It is. And that's why it's so important. For me, what it kind of boils down to, there are 5 pillars to a thriving acting career. It's mindset, branding, marketing, networking, and community. And your acting career is built on these.
Yeah.
And they're not separate from each other. They work together holistically. So even that, right? If you have a community and you're feeling yourself to be, hopeless, sadness, bitterness comes from a feeling of, it's 2 things. It's feeling out of control,
Yeah.
and it's feeling hopeless. So not only do the people who are very bitter feel like that they can't do anything to change it, right? So they're out of control, but they don't see any hope. There's no light at the end of their tunnel. So
Yeah.
that
Right.
makes people become very bitter.
Better. Yeah.
And this is where easier said than done. I realize that, but it is just a matter of practice, of just doing the repetitions, the exercises, the work for yourself, of trying to get less involved emotionally. It's all just feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all feedback, and
Yeah.
learn how to interpret it as such.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Definitely.
And
Sorry, I
go
have a
ahead.
question.
Sorry. Yeah.
How long during this process did it take for you to basically get the shield up of confidence. Because I understand that when you're going through this process, there's also a lot of people on the outside looking in that might not take that they don't consider what you're doing like a job, a real job, or
Right.
they can, or
Mm.
they just throw a whole bunch of criticism. So how long or did it take you to like knock all of those criticisms out and like build this wall of confidence?
Yeah, that's a good question. How did you evolve
Yeah.
through it?
So I think criticism comes from two places,
Yeah.
right? And so one thing is understanding where it's coming from. Sometimes it's coming from a place of fear. They're afraid for you that you're going to fail and get hurt.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so you just have to be like, I'm a grown woman. I got this. And if I fall down flat on my face, I will have fallen down doing something I wanted to do.
Right.
Truth.
So
That's
I
very
need to
true.
do this, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. That then it's coming from a place of love. There's another type of fear as well, though, and that's the fear of they are not living up to their own potential. They are not
Mm.
pursuing their own dreams,
Yeah,
and
that's
they
good.
are resentful of you for having the chutzpah
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
go after what you want. Like, who do
Right.
you think you are?
Right.
Right? Do you think you're
Yeah.
better than I am? And
Mhm.
so that is something as well, and recognizing that for what it is too, right?
Yeah. Two types of fear.
So that helps a lot. Also, again, just confidence, it comes from doing. It doesn't come from preparing to do it. So do it and make a mistake, and then do it better the next time,
Yeah.
right? Just keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it. So that's where I always am telling my clients, right? Take imperfect action. Imperfect action is
Mm.
always better than no action, because even imperfect action is building confidence.
Yeah,
Right.
I love
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like this whole, I mean, voiceover and on-camera acting, whether you're a commercial or a film or TV or whatever, it's all rejection. It's
Yep.
literally
Mhm.
95% rejection. I mean, honestly, like, and I've tried to flip my mindset where every audition I submit for, every self-tape request that's, given to me, it's all a gift. And I basically am now kind of like, why wouldn't they book me? Right?
Right.
Like, I have to put that out there, like, and I'm like, now I'm trying to change my pathways to be like, "Why wouldn't they book me? Of course they're gonna book me," right? And then it's like,
Yeah.
if they don't book me, that little bit of disappointment that was maybe a lot bigger is now getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and I don't, shoot it away or shush it away or, I literally address it. I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm disappointed. I didn't get it. Obviously, clearly they didn't book me." But I let it go, next, move on, and, it's hard. It really
Yeah,
is hard
it
because
is.
it's the long haul. Recently, I just reached a kind of a real low dipping point, and it was kinda like, "Okay, ugh," you know? I kinda hit a wall, and it was like, "What are my actionable steps? Which direction do I go? Do I go over the wall? Do I go to the right? Do I go to the left? What do I do?"
Right.
Is this like a cut my losses kinda thing? I put time, money, energy, and it's like, "Can I make this work?" So, sometimes that I've just been sitting in it. Sitting in it
Yeah.
and trying,
And I can tell you, Jozlyn, that's where like having a framework and strategies is super helpful, because it removes emotion and just
Yeah,
gives you something to do that is proactive.
Yeah.
yeah, makes
So
sense.
Makes sense.
yeah, it totally does, right? Information is cheap. There is so much information, right,
Yeah,
out there these days. We can
sure,
pick up books on marketing, on branding, on acting, on how to have an acting career. We can watch YouTube videos. We can listen to podcasts. We can do all of these things.
sure.
But the truth of the matter is implementation is where it's at,
Mhm.
Yeah,
right? So if you're not, you can be in the most informed actor in the world, but if you're not actually doing it
mhm,
and being held accountable in one form or another, and this is super important, so getting the feedback that you need to make sure
yes,
that what you are
Growing.
sending is being received the way you want it to be received,
Yeah.
right? We're
yes,
human beings, right? We have misunderstandings all the time. And when those misunderstandings are about who you are as a human being, your brand, that's a big misunderstanding that can lead to miscastings, missed opportunities, being
mm,
overlooked,
Yep.
all sorts of things.
That's
So this is
interesting.
why for me, like mindset and branding, these are like huge, like tentpole things, because once you get those two things in place,
Mm-hmm.
it makes your marketing so much easier. And frankly, it makes your networking so much easier because you now have a direction.
Yeah.
You're not just throwing spaghetti against the wall,
I've been throwing lots of
right?
I
spaghetti.
feel like
I
that too. SpaghettiOs, boom.
Yes, I know. I
Yes.
have a question though. So just
Yeah.
like one, this is kind of like a micro question. It's like pretty detailed. So hang on tight, everybody. Strap in. Like, you talk about branding and marketing. So like the big ticket is your website, right? So I started off as a voice actor and I marketed and branded myself as a voice actor. And then I fell into acting on camera. I wasn't really sure what was going to be happening, but that's a whole nother story for another time. But like I'm doing it. And it's like, so I've now added in on camera stuff. And so now I'm just kind of like looking at my website, which is basically your calling card, right? People are going to vet you with your website. And I'm like, do I have this dialed in correctly, right? So there's like multiple layers here. So like as you get going, I made my own reel. And then as I'm like out there and doing commercials, I'm out there doing student films, I'm out there doing indie films for voiceover and on camera, waiting to collect the footage that I need to start adding it into my.
Oh man, you are saying so many things. I'm like
I
really
know.
biting my
That's why
tongue.
this is
Yeah.
layered.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's just, hard. And then I paid a lot of money to have someone fully brand me, on from the voiceover industry that's well renowned. And it's like, okay, like I don't know if I want to spend a boatload of money to rebrand myself, to make sure that I'm fully putting out and sending out the correct brand message so that I'm received well for both acting and voice acting. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this like cyclical thing, where it's like
Yeah.
I'm still in my year of yes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, I need to make this business sustainable before I dive into putting.
Invest more.
Yes,
You
Yeah.
yes,
know, the
thank
thing
you.
is though, I get that.
Unpack
I
all
do.
this. Let's unpack it all.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
That was
Okay.
a
Let's
lot.
let's
Sorry.
start with that because I think that is actually a misconception because people will end up paying to have a show reel shot, right? That's not cheap. They'll
No.
end up getting headshots that are not on brand. That's not cheap. They'll end
Right.
up going to workshops or maybe even shooting different scenes themselves, right? But they're wasting their time. That's not cheap.
Right.
So that is why it is so important to understand what you want, right? So the
Mm.
way I work is not, I don't say, hey, Jozlyn, this is how I see you, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is that I think feedback is important when it comes to that. Outside, perspective is important when it comes to that. But what also is really important is understanding who you are and what you bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
So I'm there to help you hone that when you decide what that thing is. No,
That's
we're
so
we're
interesting.
just
Yeah.
taking out of the fact that some people are delusional and right. And I do not like I have long interview sessions with everybody who I invite into my program, as you know, Jozlyn,
Yes.
right? So
Yes, we had a
yeah.
nice chat. Yeah.
So I I won't invite someone in if I don't think that if I think that they're delusional, right? You need to like play with the cards in your deck, right?
Right.
So that's one thing. So I think when you don't invest in yourself, you're kind of telling the industry that you're not worth investing in. So
Mm.
that's right. It's expensive to shoot a TV series. It's expensive to shoot a commercial.
Oh yeah. 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 Yeah.
Expensive to shoot a film, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
an indie film or not, it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are not investing in yourself, why should they invest in you?
Sure. Yeah.
So
Right.
that's part of it, right? So then the other thing, oh, you touched on so many things.
Sorry.
So waiting for the material, especially in that year of yes.
Yes.
A lot of times that material is subpar.
Yeah.
It's not well written, it's not well shot, it's not well cast. It's not when you did your best work, the camera was on the other person.
Mm-hmm.
They lost that piece of footage that you did your amazing scene where you were, crying and fully present emotionally and all of that somehow got corrupted because somebody left the camera outside in the sun or the rain or whatever.
Right.
All of these things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
It's
it's
chaos.
not professional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, you are giving away your power, right? As soon as you
Right.
start saying, I can't do this because I'm waiting for that, or I'll
Mm.
be able to do it as soon as I get this, or as
Mhm.
soon as I have that, or as soon as I have the money for this, or as soon as I get the footage back, for whatever it is. It's all of those things are giving away your power. So
Mm.
I'm a huge believer in radical accountability
Ooh.
and taking your power back. So fine, you don't have the footage for that. What are the
Mm-hmm.
things that you can do right now to show people what you are capable of,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's really important. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give away like one of my trade secrets, but um the self-tape is a I mean it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly. But
Yeah.
the self-tape is widely accepted and understood throughout the industry. So instead of waiting for this subpar footage that is not going to show where you want to go, it's only going to be showing where you've been, which is also
Yes.
super important, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So instead of waiting for that, find a couple of scenes that really showcase who you are on brand, right? And
Right.
for me, your brand consists of many things. I know this can be very confusing to actors, brand versus typecasting.
Mm.
Yeah.
One thing is, I'm happy to talk about that in just a sec, but
Yeah.
um, so let me backtrack then. So then just shoot a couple of
Yeah.
scenes that really are
Like showcase your.
evocative, like, yeah,
Yeah.
showcasing your energetic signature and what
Ooh.
you can do, right?
Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And you had said so many things and I was like, bing, 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 bing. I'm trying to remember them all.
It's
Miss
just
Ann, before you move on to
Miss
that next
Anne.
one, could you translate that for voiceover acting? You know, like we have demos, obviously, and
Good.
not
Yeah.
to say that my demo was really, not it doesn't showcase what I can do, but at this point in my career and the things that I've actually picked up is very much different from what my demo is at this point. Like, is this something where I take the stuff that I've already done and kind of create a demo from
Absolutely.
that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like when I first started doing voiceover work, when I first moved to Germany, I didn't have I had never done voiceover work. I think I had
Right.
done one thing back in Chicago, but mostly I was a film and
On.
theater actor. I
Right.
wasn't doing voiceover. So when I first started doing it, I think I had one job and I got to talking with the sound engineer and he was like, well, just put together I just was literally ripping stuff out of magazines when we
Hmm.
had magazines. Remember those
Right.
days?
Yeah. I remember the newspapers, magazines. Yeah.
Right, right. And like finding like little snippets of things. And we made a demo, right?
Yeah.
And I started submitting it and I started getting work off of that.
Yeah.
So, but the demo was a really high standard. It was done in a professional studio by a professional sound engineer
Yeah.
who was
Right.
nice enough to
Right.
lay
Yeah.
down the music and the jingle and right. All of these things and showcase kind of like it was within my wheelhouse.
Hmm.
I don't know if I understood it back then or what, but it
Yeah.
was okay.
Yeah.
I ended up. So I think also, you know, the thing is with whether you're a theater actor, a film actor, a voice actor, whatever it is, many of the things that we have to go through are still the same,
Yeah.
right? We're still
Hmm.
submitting, we're still auditioning, we're
Right.
still trying to get people to see our value
Yeah.
Hmm.
beyond the resume.
Right. Yeah.
That's.
And a lot of that is networking. So the
Mhm.
networking aspect of my course is like the crown jewel. So once you've
Mm.
done all this work building your thriving, building your career on top of these 5 pillars, right?
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
building the house of your career, the 4 walls of your career, the networking aspect of it is where it really starts to pay off.
Right.
Mm.
Right. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's networking in a way that's authentic to you because everybody's different. Some people are
Mhm.
more outgoing, some people are more introverted,
Oh
and
yeah.
networking, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
like some people totally freeze up, you know, the idea of like, oh my God, I have to go to this event and talk to these people and blah, 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 and tell them about myself and da, da, da. And it's
Hard.
uncomfortable. And I get
Mhm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's not what networking is.
Mhm.
Networking is, if you look at it as building professional friendships, then
Mhm.
it's not about like, look at this is what I can do. This is what I can, you know, I can do this and I can do that, blah, 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 and
Right.
I'm an actor
Yeah.
and, you know, that whole thing. I've got someone in my course right now. She is a director of one of the biggest film festivals here, but she's also an actor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure we'll get into it because I've just started this cohort a couple weeks ago, but she obviously has amazing access to all sorts of filmmakers
Mhm.
through her being a director of this huge film festival.
Sure.
And she's always felt really uncomfortable with like saying I'm an actor, but she will be at these events at the festival, speaking with a director, speaking with a producer, and literally is like pushed aside by an actor. You know, we've all seen them do this, right?
Mhm.
And stick their hand out, and I'm an actor, and da 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 da, you know, and this and that. And I
Huh.
asked her, this was also during our intake conversation for the course. I said, and how did they respond to that? And she just kind of rolled her eyes. And I said,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Who the hell
Yeah.
wants that?
Nobody wants that.
Right?
No. Yeah.
No.
No, we
Yeah.
already know that you want something. Like, let's just make a
Yeah.
connection, right? Like, networking is super important. And that also kind of comes back to community. So, if you're going to go out and network and you have a community, maybe you can pull some people from your community to go network. You know, we
Right.
have tons of like voiceover conferences that we've all talked about before. That's so, I went to one last year when I was like, you know, because I was just like, it's important for me to go and network, you know, and
Mhm.
it was beneficial. I made a lot of friendships, made a lot of connections. You know, I wasn't sure where it was gonna go, but it was definitely helpful, but it
I
is
feel like
very
it was kind of
overwhelming.
a pivoting point for you too. Like
Yeah,
after that experience for you, like I felt like you were zooming and doing this and doing that and like picking this
yeah,
up and doing that and meeting different people. It was just like I feel like it was a pivotal point for you once you were able to network with all these different people and it kind of just broaden your horizons and kind of I don't want to say open doors because like I don't want to say you grabbed opportunities from these people
yeah.
but you were able to speak to different people and you blossomed it was fun
Thank
to
you.
see
Well,
you
thank you.
blossom after that point. Yeah, it was
That's
really
like
cool.
I think I saw, like, a new land I think the lay of the land, like, opened up, you know, and, like, the
Yeah,
landscape of voiceover and everything that went with it sort of opened up to me, you know, because I think
totally.
before that, I was just a little bit more confined in my, you
Yeah,
know, where I
absolutely.
had started. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think networking is super important. And like just making those touches, you know, like just touching base
Hmm.
with different people. Like I've done a handful of commercials at this point and in terms of on camera stuff and like student films and indie films. And I always go into it like not like what are they going to do for me, but how can I help them? You know, in what I'm bringing to the situation. And I always like those conversations while you're waiting, which is there's a whole lot of waiting
Yeah.
all the time, those conversations and just making sure I touch, you know, like touch points. I like, you know, I have conversations with people, like exchange social media's contacts, you know, and just recently, you know, um, we're waiting for a net 30 for like a commercial that I'm supposed to get paid on. And it's like that's a whole lot of waiting too.
Ugh,
And, you know, I
that's
had
the
a
worst
couple
part of the waiting.
right? It's not consistent. It goes back to that consistency. But, you know, I had a couple people reach out to me, you know, and it was nice to hear from them again. And it's like open up that line of communication. So like that's community, that's networking. It's, you know, it's all wrapped in. So all everything that you're saying, Anne, like really you know, hits solid points for me for sure where I'm at. Um,
Mm.
yeah, you mentioned something and I'm forgetting. So if anybody else has a conversation, you know, it's the age thing. I'm like, I
I
had
have a
a thought
question.
and then it just went that way.
I
I
used to forget my keys in places too when I was 17, so I don't know
Right?
about
Or
that.
you know, your sunglasses
Lifelong,
are on top of
lifelong.
your head, you know, or you're like, "Where are my keys?" And they're in your hand, you know,
Right,
it's like,
Yeah.
right, right.
"Ugh."
In the
Good.
freezer, usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Go ahead, Gabby.
Yeah.
I know you had a question.
what's the one like what's the one
Oh,
common fear you see amongst all these actors that come to you?
You just broke up a little bit. Would you say the fear?
Yes, what's the one common fear you see amongst the actors that come to you?
Yeah.
It's a good
Well,
question.
I think mostly fear stems from different things
yeah.
because as human beings, we're either motivated by wanting pleasure or avoiding pain.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends how you are intrinsically motivated, like, and how that manifests in you. But the thing that it usually ends up as is people, they're not putting themselves out there. They're not, they're waiting to get the validation
Mm-hmm.
to know that they're worth investing in, to invest in themselves.
Yeah.
But it's like this, in Germany, they call it a devil's, right? It's like this catch-22.
Sure.
Because again, it goes back to like action is what gives you confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
waiting to get the validation is it sounds logical in a lot of people's minds, and this is where people really have to watch out,
Mm-hmm.
because logic, like fear shows up dressed in logic's clothes.
Yes.
Like it
That's
does.
true. Yeah.
Right. So, oh no. I would invest in my career right now. I would take a workshop. But I can't, because the kids, they've got lots of things to do this year. I'm gonna have to go pick them up. I'm gonna have to drop them off. I have to be there. Or, we're doing, unless it is a life-changing event, having a baby, getting married, the death of someone you love, God forbid, whatever, right? These are life-changing events,
Mm-hmm.
an illness, all of these things, right? Then it's just called life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you are not prioritizing what you need to be prioritized, if you need to be, right? This is what so a lot of my conversations are like, is this truly a priority for you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you say, like, from a scale from 1 to 10 that you're at a 29,
Right.
but what are you doing to show up for yourself and prove that to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
letting yourself down when you don't do that. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
so fear, I mean, there are lots of different fears that show up, but it's generally success, either afraid that they won't have the success, so they're self-sabotaging
Yeah.
to come up with, well, I never really tried. They don't say this, but
Yeah.
it's there. I never really tried, so therefore I didn't really fail,
Right.
right? Or some people are actually afraid of the success,
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
as well. So
I remembered my question. So sorry. Like back to like sort of like marketing and branding and business and stuff. I think a lot of people like are fearful of like putting themselves out there for sure and like investing in a website, and from a business and marketing standpoint. And if you've already done so, like back to like voice acting and acting, it's like, do you have a separate website for acting? Do you have a separate website for voice acting? Or can you combine them? I've combined them. And what do you feel like you mentioned headshots? What about like lifestyle shots versus headshots, doing like a studio, like in terms of like portraying like your brand, like I'm kind of at that space and time where, how often do you have to redo everything? Is it once a year, once a couple
yeah,
Good
years? Is it,
question.
yeah,
yeah.
so from like an insider.
Those are great questions. Yeah. So I think honestly that a website can be not nearly as focused as you would need it to be an effective tool for you. Because what happens is when you put everything in the one place, you've got your social media links, you've got your acting, you've got your
Mm-hmm.
voiceover, you've got all these different things. And if someone is coming there specifically because they saw you in something, a film or a TV series or a commercial, whatever it is, they're interested in you as an actor, and they're coming there and they're like, oh, well, let's see what our Instagram following is like, and then they're gone. They're not coming back to your website. That's
Sure.
one thing, right?
Okay.
Or oh, she does voiceover. Okay, let me go look at that. Oh wow, she's pretty good. Okay, yeah. Oh honey, yeah, I'll be right with you, and gone. Right.
Right.
So it's not targeted. It's not succinct.
Mm,
And I think that there are better ways to do that.
okay.
We've all heard of the EPK, the electronic press kit, one of the things I teach in my course is the electronic pitch kit. And these are creating very targeted tools for what you need them to be, whether that's getting different representation, or whether that's where you're sending, casting directors, or where you're sending producers, or where it's a tool that you can use again and again and again for different, for your different needs, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a matter of just tweaking at that
Okay.
point. So it's not like, you're not building everything from scratch all over again. It's just tweaking it. And it's very targeted. It's very concise. And you are in control. So I'm very big on, I think, as I mentioned in the beginning of this, there's so much about this business that is disempowering for actors.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much about controlling the narrative. And maybe a control freak, I admit it, but where possible, right?
Yeah.
And finding the ways where you are the one who's saying, look over here, don't look here, right? So you're kind of being, a magician is too strong a word, but you are truly
illusionist.
crafting. Well, I mean, it's not that either, because the most
Captain.
effective stuff
You're
is
the
being
captain.
authentic, right?
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You're the captain of your ship. You are
Yeah.
steering your boat where you want it to go.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually, I don't know if I can say this on your podcast. You can cut it out if I shouldn't say it, but I'm doing a free masterclass in May.
No, of course you can say that.
There are 3 different days. It's May 14th, 15th, and 16th. That sort of, gives you an introduction into my 5-pillar framework, and then some of the 3 most common mistakes, and of course, some strategies that you can implement like right now to sort of get more control over your career.
I like
So
that.
that's at act-bold.com/masterclass.
Awesome.
Okay, we'll have to add that to the show notes.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'll get that again, and I'll write that down later. Do you guys have any other questions? I feel like we're winding down, and I know you have like a fun night ahead because you're in Germany. I have to
So
tell you,
cool.
I have to tell you something.
I just have one question.
Yeah,
real
yeah,
quick.
no, I was gonna tell a little story.
Since you live in Germany, was it difficult to find an agent abroad?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Do you mean in Germany, or do you mean my London agent, or what do you mean?
Yeah, just an agent in general.
I mean, the film
to-
industry here is not any easier than it is anywhere else, right?
Mhm.
It's very competitive, and lots of people want to be actors, and
Yeah.
yes and no. I mean, I think even before I really honed in on what a brand was, I think I had a really good idea. And also, I'm a pretty goddamn good actress. So
Hey, love that.
Yeah,
Snap, snap, snap.
So yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it boils down to, right? All
Right,
this
yeah.
business savvy in the world won't
Right,
help
right.
me if I don't have the talent to back it up.
Sure.
Yes.
True.
So
Yeah.
so that helped, right? That does
Yeah.
help.
And you
But
had a
I
book
tell
of
you,
work too. You had a book of
yeah.
work from when you were younger, because this is like, your second time
Yeah.
around, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had nothing to show for it. I mean,
Right.
it was 16 years old for one.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
true.
on film, like actual film.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow.
a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's
Right.
electronic. Yeah. Okay.
I'm 57, you guys. So, I mean, it was like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And my mom's basement had flooded anyway. So
Yeah.
that's where I
Oh,
was
yeah.
keeping all of my film
Your
reels. I had like
reels, yeah.
little cans of
Your
film.
relics.
Real
Yeah.
reels.
Actual reels. Yeah. So yeah, so I had nothing. It was like literally starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Just saying I'm an actor. And they were like, don't know.
Everybody's an actor. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sure you are.
Yeah.
Plus
Proof's in
here
the
they're very
pudding.
much big on like having certificates, like,
Mm.
like show us the proof that you have a diploma as an actress. And
Mm.
Wow.
I didn't go to university to be an actor. I was at an acting school, like a conservatory style school. So,
Yeah.
and even that was in the box with my reels. So I didn't have that anymore. And it was like,
Right.
are you serious? Okay. I was like, can I just
Wow.
come in and do a couple of monologues and show you? They're like,
Yeah.
no. So that was really a lot of like fighting. Getting an agent. What I found super interesting, like I did it just the traditional way, the first time around. Now I have a new agent in London and Italy and France. And that was through like using these new techniques that I've developed, right? Using my
Right. Yeah.
5-pillar framework, I'm a big believer that, we're always told, like, don't bore them. Don't put too many things in that. You better not have more than 3 lines and a link to your spotlight or
Yeah.
actors access, right?
Right.
Just
Right.
don't take up their time, right? And it's just like, whoa. If somebody, just like slow your roll there, right?
Yeah.
If they can't be bothered to read this email, then they're probably not the right agent
Right.
for me.
Yeah. That's a good
But
perspective.
it's
It's
also
different.
my job to make that email really friggin' entertaining.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So we will be forgiven a lot if we don't bore people to death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's
and
interesting.
yeah. And that is also a big part of like understanding what is your voice and how does your marketing is not just your headshots, your show reels, your website, your casting profiles, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Your marketing is also, and most importantly, the communications that you're having with people.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Communication. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I feel like too, when you talked about like knowing yourself, right, to figure in and making sure that you're sending out the right message to be for casting directors and producers to know who you are, and not like having misrepresentation or whatever. I'm now just realizing, like, gosh, like what Angela touched on too, like my voiceover demo that I did a couple years ago doesn't really reflect who I am because
Mhm.
I finally figured out through being in the business and doing what I'm doing and, gaining confidence, I'm finally realizing like what I have to offer, like in real time. Whereas before I knew what I wanted to do, but
Right.
I kind of had a direction, but now I really am like starting to discover who I am. And now that's why I was asking about the website and, reels and that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
am I really fully portraying like who I really am as I'm discovering me, And
Right.
it's like what I can bring to the table, so yeah, I'm in that whole
Absolutely. No, but
discovery.
I think that's so
I
true
think we're
because
all
we're
there.
not, we are hopefully always evolving and developing
Mhm.
and our interests change and so therefore we age, we have new life experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be a different person when my son has a child, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, right? So it's all of these things play into who we are and our brand. And
Yeah.
our brand is not, it's not like, oh, got it,
Yeah.
let's just nail that thing down.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
This is who I
Make
am
sure
evolving.
nothing
forever. Yeah.
changes, right? It's
Yeah.
always evolving. I'm
Sure.
finding myself now leaning like more towards comedy, right? Which
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
love. I truly do love it. And I think I had my own limiting beliefs around comedy not being as valid
Mm.
as like drama, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love drama too. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, where I really am having fun on a set is like when I can just
Comedy.
be silly and
Yeah.
like let all that out. And this is another thing, like even when you can be irreverent, like this is, I've noticed this with commercials that I've, been auditioning for and like getting penciled or getting put on a veil. And so one was the Super Bowl commercial for Coors Light.
Ooh.
And they ended up cutting my role.
Ah.
And that
Oh.
was, I was totally irreverent. It was
Yeah.
like, here's your scene and here's the way I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was like, whatever. I mean, there were probably 5,000 people auditioning for this thing. So who cares?
Yeah.
Either they'll remember me, and they did, and I ended up getting penciled for it. And then they ended up cutting the role, which was obviously a drag. Would have been
It's
10
still
Yeah.
a
days.
win, though. It's still a win. It's still a
Absolutely.
win.
It's
Yeah.
still a
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah. and just recently for Netflix as well, where, you know, I had a streamer, but I'm assuming it's Netflix. They never tell you what it's for.
Right, right.
When you're auditioning, right?
Yeah.
But that was the same thing, you know, like adding stuff in, got penciled for that, and then my agent called and said, "Oh, they just reissued the breakdown looking for an Asian woman." It's like, okay, so I guess I'm out. But this goes also back to the disempowering part, right?
Right,
Because by the time you put somebody on a veil, you can take the 5 minutes that it takes to let 5 people know that they won't be needed, right?
Yeah,
We're not
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about 5,000 or 500 or even 50 at this point.
Yeah.
We're talking about, you know, 3 to 10 people who are maximum been put on a veil for this thing.
Yeah. It's
Right.
hard. It goes right back to rejection. I literally, I'm going to share this really quickly before we do our final question. I honestly, I was literally on set for a commercial. I was the hero, and then there was like another like principal. We had hair, makeup, wardrobe, everything. Then all like the extras came in too. And then like we were literally marched down to set. They had us all set up on the like on set. And all of a sudden the director's like, "Come here. Okay, we're gonna have to swap you out." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And he said it was because of my tattoos. So then I'm like all in my head, shit, they never said be careful of your tattoos. They never said no tattoos. You know, it was like a yoga thing.
Why didn't they
So
just cover them?
Right?
well, here's the rest of the story. So they take another lady who's entirely like she was an older lady, right? Older.
Right.
So they
Probably
wanted
your
us to
age.
no, she was a little bit older than me, but she had like
Was
this
she? Okay.
beautiful like curly like gray and beautiful hair. She was a
Ah,
model. She was beautiful. But definitely we looked two different looks, right? And so they pulled us both off set and they want us to swap outfits. And then they realized we couldn't swap outfits right there. So they took us back up to wardrobe. And so then we had to do this whole thing. And as we're walking up, the client came with, and I said, "I apologize. Like I am, you know, I didn't realize that my tattoos would be, you know, an issue." And she was like, "Oh no." And this is, you know, the director said something different. She said, "Oh no, 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 no. It's not your tattoos. That's not a problem. You just look too young. We have two different clients we have two different consumers that we're looking for. And I decided she's like, I decided that I think that this shoot should be more for the older." And I was like, "Oh, okay." You know, and it was like, you know, so even when you do get booked,
Can I ask Jozlyn? Jozlyn, was that how can I phrase this? Was that a low budget commercial?
yeah,
Yeah. That's what it sounds like. Like they
you know,
didn't know what they were doing.
it was like
Yeah.
it was social media. I
Yeah.
find out I get
Yeah.
a lot. There's a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of big name products are doing a lot of
Yeah.
social media commercials because they can do low budget and
Mm.
get more bang for their buck these days.
Sure.
You know, and like they can
Absolutely.
pay you for your
Yeah.
time, but they don't have to pay you for usage, right? Because it's like
Right.
social media, you
Right.
know, which is something that
Be
I'm
careful
finding.
about that
I
because
am
you're
being very
worth
careful.
more than
Yeah.
the $800 that you're going to get paid for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
then it locks you out of doing other commercials that are in that related field too, that would
Yeah.
actually pay you what you're
Right.
worth.
See, and that's the other side of the business, a part of things that like
Mhm.
you know, I also got roped into like a SAG after commercial that wasn't they were paying SAG, but we weren't really SAG, right? So I didn't get the credit because we were real people. There was like a little
Mm.
loophole there.
Mm.
And it was also another social media for
You're
like a
so
big name
sneaky.
brand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
sneaky.
I know. So
Yeah.
anyways, I mean, that's just like my like little like thing. So like I'm getting, but again, like I'm, you know, in the year of yes, I'm trying to build my resume, you know, I'm trying to
Right.
like get experience and, you know, show that I'm bookable and I'm gaining agents, you know, and I'm booking on my own. I'm still self-submitting, but I'm also now like getting self-tape requests through agents and, you know, like the whole thing, you know, and it's like, it's a journey. It really is a
Mhm.
journey. So the more empowered you are and the more information you have, then the better equipped you are, you know? And so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Gabby, you want to ask the final question or,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I have the fun question. I got to look.
Okay. So the final question is, out of everything you've done, what's the one thing you're the most proud of?
I know it's hard.
In my
We
life
go really,
or just
yeah.
as an
Or just
actor or
Yeah,
either,
in your life.
whatever.
It's just a combination of everything.
yeah. I mean, I've got the cliche answer, I guess. I'm most proud of my son.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like hard
Everybody
not to
says
do.
that
Yeah.
one.
We always say that.
Yeah.
How could you
Right.
not? Right. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, but as an
My son's
actor,
amazing.
but as an actress, you know,
As an
actor,
actor, I'm really honestly most proud of changing like the trajectory of my career, which has
Yeah.
been like the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like going from getting, you know, like going from getting so co-stars or small recurring roles and, like not really to getting much more high caliber in
Yeah.
bigger films. And I just got cast in a Netflix series. I'm super excited about that.
Not to
Congratulations.
mention
And
the coaching
Yeah, the
comes
coaching.
into it.
Yeah.
Like, that's really
I'm
awesome too.
also super proud of the successes that the people in my course have been having in a really short time. Like
Yeah.
one is just killing it. She finished the course, the last course run in mid-March, and within like 3 weeks of completing it, she wrote me a text that was like, in the past 2 weeks, I've just been booked in 3 different TV shows.
Wow.
And so it
Wow.
was like, I'm so proud of that as well and validated that like, because it's one thing to say this has worked for me, but
Mhm.
to say like, this is just do this and you
Yeah.
are going to see results,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's just like, we all have strategies or we don't. And that's a
Yeah.
problem too,
Yeah.
right? But if
Yep.
whatever strategy has gotten you to where you are now, if you want something to change, you have to try a different strategy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I am really proud of, I think as actors, it's really important for us we want to make an impact, right?
Yeah.
We want to make a connection. We want to make an impact. And we're
Mm-hmm.
interested in people. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very kind of a funny profession, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
strange, right? With all of our, and as human beings, we walk around with this mask and, protecting ourselves and a shell and blah, 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 and,
Yeah.
but as actors, we got to peel all that away and be
Yeah. It's tough.
vulnerable and yeah. And it's always walking this razor's edge of contrast.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And I
Yeah.
love that. And so there are so many aspects that I'm proud of, but I would say mostly like within the past 3 years, even like I started my own podcast
Act
just over a
bold.
year
Yeah.
ago. Act Bold, yes. Which is kind of like my life's philosophy, honestly, and my
Mhm.
philosophy for how I'm an actor. It's just like, just do it,
Yeah.
just
Right.
do
Do
it.
it. I
There
love
are
it.
no rules, right? Find your inner
Yes.
rebel and do it.
I like that.
And yeah. And all of that has like been in this wonderful way, this self-perpetuating building of my confidence,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. I love that.
So yeah, I
That's
don't know
great.
if that
Awesome.
answers your
It
question or
did.
Yeah, that's
Totally.
awesome.
All right.
Yes, it
I
did.
have
Thank you.
final roundtable real quick. If you could choose to be paid with anything other than money, what would you choose? I'll go
Ooh.
first. Vodka. Good vodka.
Good vodka.
Even though I'm like sober curious, I'm in a period of sober curiosity, but I mean, you can't go wrong with the good vodka. Okay. Anybody else want to go first?
That's a great answer, though. I mean,
Thank
that
you.
it could be used
airplane
as,
miles.
oh,
Airplane.
that's a good one
Oh,
too.
that's a good one.
Oh
Airplane miles. I
man,
love that. All right, Angela, you can't think too much. Like
I know it's so hard though.
I choose coffee too. If I can't have vodka, I go with
Coffee's
a good
good.
coffee.
I don't know.
Gabby, do you have a quick answer? It's supposed to be
But
round table.
I love the travel miles.
Yeah.
I know that's great. That totally shifted my thoughts.
Yeah.
I'd probably say maybe clothes. How about that? We'll just go with
Okay,
clothes.
we'll go with clothes.
Clothes
All
are
right.
good. Yeah.
I love
yeah.
clothes.
Gabby, you're gonna keep with the travel miles.
Yeah, it's so it's just I
She's our
travel so
traveler.
much.
You travel a
that-
lot. Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
That'd be
Awesome.
perfect.
yeah.
So now we're clothed. We have got vodka and we've got travel miles, and so
We're
So we're
living
ready
good.
to go.
We're
we
living
don't.
good.
What
we
more
are
do we need, right?
we are-
Where are we going, ladies?
we
That's
are
funny.
Yeah.
ready to go. And do you want to share with everybody, how to connect with you or get a hold of
Yeah,
you and
absolutely.
find you and your podcast and stuff, so we can do that.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Act Bold. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the usual places. I am also, my website is act-bold.com. And
Mm-hmm.
you can also find me there. I'm on Instagram at
Yeah.
_bold, or Ann Alexander Cedar. Sounds like the tree, but it's Sieder. Yeah, I'm pretty findable all over the place. Yeah, hit me
Yeah.
up. I would love it. And I would love for whoever is, if I've piqued your curiosity, if any of these things that I said have resonated with you and you'd like to learn more about it, then you should definitely attend my free masterclass.
Yes, we're gonna need to put that
Yeah,
link in the show notes,
yeah,
masterclass. I'm making
absolutely.
a note. Thank you so much. It was so nice to share your evening, our morning. Cheers to
Yeah.
coffee.
I love mom.
I know
Cute.
my son came in this morning and brought me coffee in this cup, and he's like,
Aw,
I was like,
so sweet.
oh, he's like, I'm the
He's
Yeah.
best, right? I'm
he's
like,
definitely the
Yeah.
favorite.
he's totally the favorite. He's the
Yeah.
youngest. He knows how to work mom.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you.
thank you guys.
Thank you so much.